First of all, thank you, Professor Laszlo, that you accepted this invitation to share your thoughts for the global dialogues. And I would like to start with a question. Somehow we know each other for some times, and of course I know of you for a very long time. And I always looked at you as, one of the last Renaissance men, as Jakob Burckhardt describes, and as position to the Marcuse one-dimensional man. You a pianist and a world-renowned thinker for decades now. And my question is that a statement or an accident that I'm talking to you and you are at the birthplace of the Renaissance?
Oh, that I am here. I am here simply because I love the culture and I love nature around here. And it leaves me alone, basically, to pursue my thought. Italians, unlike many other countries like Americans or French or English, don't insist on you joining them. You can do what you wish. And I live here in some place where nature is probably unchanged. I live over a valley called the Valley of the Cecina River, which has been continuously not only inhabited, but continuously worked agriculturally for over 5,000 years. And so this is something that leaves its mark on nature, it leaves its mark on those who live here. I sense it, I feel it somehow. I've always been attracted to this particular neighborhood, to this particular field. And I'm living here now since the mid-1980s, so it's a long time. And I find it as a good place for me to think, to ready it from, to travel from. And now, of course, very much digitally, not necessarily always in person anymore. But it's a good place for me to be.
Sorry for asking, but somehow I felt that it's symbolic that somehow you who usually make your voice heard when there are big crossroads in front of us, and I thought it's symbolic that the way that the Renaissance went back to the values of the antiquity. You also, to me, embody a critic of the whole life, if I can put it this way, the way we live and the way we the brink towards we are heading. And recently you sent a message, a very short but a very concise message, and I read it once and read it again, and it's really resonated in me until I understood. And this would be the first question, that you say that bifurcation creates crisis, but it also creates opportunity. And then you call the importance to this. And somehow it took a while to me to understand the depth of that. And if I look around, I feel that there's very little understanding of this, because all the stimuli, all the government actions, everything what they do, they want to uh, recreate things as they were before. They all the you know, Trump's advisors, whether you like Trump or not, and his you know, opponents, they all say, you know, just depth, and try to get back where you were. Push up consumption, and then the machinery will work, and then we will worry about the debt later. And I really think, and I'm sorry if I translated your words or mistranslated them, that this way of thinking of leaders is really missing the opportunity, because I think in this last 2-3 months, people learned that they don't have to have a lot of you know, their artificially generated desires satisfied. I think these 3 months prepared people more than 10 years of preaching and education, because somehow families adopted. You know, they don't have to go to an all-inclusive resort where everything is delivered to them and the kids looked after them. Instead of that, now they go bicycle together, or you know, they enjoy what they find in the garden instead of going to the supermarket and eat something which traveled 1,500 miles. And yet, somehow the general, you know, prime media and everything is, you know, stimulus, and try to get back where we were. And somehow what I translated to myself, that from your message, wait a minute, I'm not sure that we have to get back where we were. We have to go somewhere else from this bifurcation.
Well, dear Istvan, this is what you are saying is exactly the message, of course. And because I have written this short message and it had such a resonance, such a response to it, I have now expanded it. Next week, as it happens, I'm going to, as of next week, I will be on the internet, a little book of just 60 pages, which expands this message, which is called Global Shift, Now the Opportunity. So I'm saying precisely what you are saying. In a nutshell, we need to get home, go home, but not go back. Go home to the sources, to the source, to our basic nature. Go back, but not to what the world that we have left behind. There is a chance, there is this opportunity that you are voicing this, what I'm saying now, that you thought that memo that I wrote that has some meaning for today's world. I think this is not accidental. I think that there is a general feeling along that line. I'm now doing everything I can through the social media, whoever is willing to listen, to give this message. Yes, we have to go home, but go home to something much more natural, much more sustainable, much more aligned with the way the world really is and operates, because this is not an accidental, not a chance-made world. There are laws, there are tendencies which are keeping us, but they're expressed sometimes in the depths of our psyche, sometimes expressed through art, sometimes through philosophy, sometimes through spirituality, and it is also expressed through the leading cutting-edge science. If you read what Max Planck is saying, what Carl Gustav Jung is saying, what Erwin Schrödinger is saying, what Einstein is saying, it really comes down to this. There is something in the depths of nature which is mirrored in us, which is not this superficial hunting for just for more and more wealth and power and influence for short-term artificial satisfactions, there is something deeper in us. And now that we have the chance, a chance that we don't have to go do what we have been doing before, because that has been broken apart. There has been an alternative has been shown. There has been a disruption, to use a popular expression these days. The world before that we have created has suffered a crisis. Now, where do we get out of this crisis? This is a bifurcation process. Where do we get out? It really has an element of freedom, has an element of self-determination in it. To recognize what you are saying is what I think is key. You are saying it, and I hope other people are beginning to say it as well, so that the politicians and the big business leaders are not imposing simply their will, but we the people can perhaps have this old democratic idea, which in an age of the internet is a particularly important idea. We can make our voice heard. And I'm very much determined to collaborate in every way to make this voice, the voice of awakening, the voice of recognizing that there's another way to go, to have that heard.
And if I ask you about this paradigm shift, which I think the crisis, and following your thought that everything has some positive outcome, that it's really help to prepare people's minds for a need of change. The most difficult thing, I believe, is to change what's in your head. And the crisis really taught us new things and new considerations, and this paradigm or ruling paradigm, it cannot be anything else but finally to accept the paradigm of sustainability, and this, I think, puts all the old way of thinking, be it liberal or leftist or whatever, neoclassical, puts a little bit behind or into a crisis. And the word which was really, since the 19th century or even before, the Homo economicus, that follow your private interest and it will produce the public good, and development is everything. This whole thing is now in question, because development in many ways did not make the quality of life better, plus the premise that we can develop on an ever-growing use of natural resources and exploiting people. This is the leftist reading of it, the class struggle or whatever. This is all in problem now, because there is no development or growth based on the growing use of natural resources, and I think it inevitably will follow, has to follow with a revaluation of natural resources and human resources, and yet what we need to do that this nature calling, let's put it this way, this, I mean, that's how I look at it, a dramatic call of nature, that it can go like this towards. Do you see in the word order, or in the word politics, any signs besides, young people like Greta Thunberg, who's saying, throw the whole thing out. We don't have to get back where we were before. Do you see any hope that it will change and people will hear this call of nature? It seems that the ordinary people heard it more than the politicians and the business leaders who needs to produce profit for the balance sheet and needs to get re-elected. Somehow there is a two-way movement, that it seems that your message will resonate in academia and ordinary people more than those who really are the shakers and movers.
Those who had a large stake in the previous order, in the pre-crisis order, those are the ones who want to get back to it so that they can regain their advantages.
Exactly.
Those who have less to lose, are easier for them to risk an alternative. Now, I trust, in effect, in an insight that we get from the sciences, that the outside world is in some ways, and even in a much more ideological way, Lenin has said that, for example, and Marx, and from much before, that this is reflected somehow, that our mind or consciousness reflects the world. Certainly we are built into the world. And my belief, my hope is in the fact that the outside of the world, the shape of the world outside, leaves its trace, its mark inside, in our mind, in our thinking. Now, the outside world has got a shock. The human world on this planet has lived through a shock wave. This lockdown was a shock wave, and it's still lasting. And it means it's shaking it up. Now, what is it falling back into? Does it have to fall back, or could it fall forward? I think what you need is, what you are articulating is the need for a new paradigm. Of course, originally the paradigm by Thomas Kuhn applied to science, to the development of science, in particular to the development of physics. But it can be applied to all sciences, and it can be applied to all systems of thinking, of reasoned, reasonable, hypothetical thinking. And it can be applied to the human community as an ensemble of people who are capable of such thinking. And so what we need is to recognize that nature, the world outside, doesn't operate like we thought it did. The key concepts, I think, all along are here. What do we base our understanding on? Is it the part? Is it the whole? Is it the inside, or is it the outside? The old paradigm was part and outside. The new paradigm can be something that we have been doing for thousands of years, the great traditions. It has to be based on the inside and on the whole. Now, this inside, what we find inside, is truly what is now being found by the most avant-garde sciences, the physical and cosmological sciences. Because this world is not a part-built universe, it's not one which is built from one part joining to another part and creating a third one and gradually being built up like a mechanistic structure. This world is a seamlessly whole world, a universe, a macroscopic quantum system per se. Now, we are beginning to feel that, I think. We are beginning to see how a single element, such as a virus, can provoke us into recognizing that we are members of the same species and we are all in the same position on a small planet. And this is not an artificial position. It's the more the natural order of things that we should be together. We have been proceeding on the basis of maximizing, optimizing the part. And therefore we have neglected the larger context, the whole. Sayings like the American president saying, I don't want to use adjectives for that, saying America first. No matter what you say first, that means that there is something which is last. And it cannot be last if it's part of us. The only first that we can put is the biosphere, is the entire web of life on this planet. That can only come first, needs to come first, if we are to all to live together on this planet. And this recognition of wholeness is coming through in the new sciences, it's coming through in people's thinking, in people's feeling, when they are really shaken out of the ordinary routine, which only tells them do one thing at a time, do it so it satisfies your needs and wants, and never mind the rest. That kind of self-centered, short-term, part-oriented thinking is shaken up. And the hope is that we can return to something which is much more basic, which was there in all traditional cultures. It was there through the Middle Ages. All the European Middle Ages, of course, were heavily dominated by the church dogma. But the as deepest sense of spirituality was always present. Now, the big news is that the new quantum sciences and the old insights are really coming together, and they are one and the same. The wholeness, the seamlessness, the belongingness. And this is something which is young people resonate to. When they say, seek love, seek unconditional love, that's one way of expressing being part of a quantum system. So I think we are resonating to something which is deeper, which is in us, which is in the universe, not accidental. And if we are being shaken up a little bit out of the routines that we have created artificially over the past 100, 150 years, using technology only for short-term ends, basically, not only, but I mean primarily for short-term ends, only for our own desires, and therefore over-exploiting resources, overusing what is available to us, giving preference to a small groups of people, the elites, the powerful ones, to the exclusion of the others. All this is being questioned. You yourself said questioning. To me, it's the major element. I'm working now on a little book called The Wisdom Principles, which my editor asked me to do. And I'm hooking this, primarily the center part of this book, on the idea that we have to recognize that we live in a world in which all things are connected and all things belong together, and that we are very much a part of that. If that recognition, which is emerging in young people, even in teenagers, more than it does in, of course, in the big business and the big politics, then if this recognition can take over, and we can use the internet then to augment, to amplify the message of what we are beginning to feel in the depths of the social communities of our world, then I think there's a chance that we go back to something better, not to the same old thing that before, because that would be catastrophic, truly. And I think we have a chance to move forward and have a feeling, I have a sense that we will move forward. And I, for one, am doing my level best, working 12, 14 hours a day, writing, sending messages, publishing things, videos and all that, to bring forth this idea that we have a chance. Let's seize this opportunity to get back to something which is really truer, being us, which we have known, our humanity, we have known through the Renaissance, through the classical times, we have, and through the Eastern philosophies. It's always been there. We need to recognize it and beginning to live it again. get back home, but not back to the old world, home to a new world.
And one last question, so we stay within our time frame. I would like to hear your opinion about a new world order, because whether we like it or not, there are powers emerging which don't give too much hope. I think, at least for my generation, the powers which are emerging now are very scary, and there are followers, this wannabe autocrats who after the crisis they grow like mushrooms. But of course there are the big ones, China, Turkey, Brazil, and of course Russia, that somehow there must be some hope that a new world order will come about, because following your thought, it cannot be followed the way we operate now, that in the last decades the most dynamically developing part of the world was operating the least sustainable way, and namely all the supply chain go all the way to China. And it's not only the Chinese to blame, it is like my old professor Immanuel Wallerstein said just before he died in an article, that it's still the good old greed for profit, that you go wherever the cheaper, wherever the environmental regulations are the most lax. And somehow I feel that it has to come a movement which rearranging the international organizations, because they all sort of products of the old paradigm, the whole laissez-faire, and then the holy cow of cheap consumer goods, no matter how they produce. It cannot go in like this, that in price calculation they find it's an old, you were one of them, but Herman Daly, Epstein, a lot of it's a word out there all the way to Schumacher, that you should take into consideration in the price the externalities, the ecosystem services, what they use. It's fake to have deliver cheap products to the consumers and saying it's good for them. It's not good for them, because it's ruining the planet under them, plus ruining their own job. That finally it should be some international system which takes this into consideration. I don't have much hopes for the UN or the WHO. Didn't act very well in this, but it cannot go on that every supply chain is going all the way to China. And I think the crisis made us learn that you don't have to have a food product which travels thousands of kilometers. You can pick it up in your garden, and somehow bringing down this paradigm that the only thing matters, and that creates the common good. If everybody gets cheap products, and it's secondary whether they get sick from it or an unhealthy life, etc. So somehow the I think the people are more ready than the as you said, those who have vested interest and the international arena. That somehow that has to change too.
You know, at least there has been a positive sign, talking about the triple bottom line, as you know, in management: people, planet, and profit. I think we have to have a double profit, a double bottom line, which is people and planet. Profit is not a bottom line. Profit is something that enables you to operate. You need some profit to be able to do what you want to do, but it's not an end in itself. So it's not part of the bottom line. Now, people and planet. People can create the planet sustainable or collapse. People can create the world that they want to create, and it's possible to do it. The internet is a fantastic tool for that. Let me just tell you, in anticipation, in the early fall, there will be a new platform coming online that I'm very much involved with, a new platform on the internet. It's called People Together. People Together is the name of the platform, just like Facebook. It has its own little logo that will appear next to wherever you look at Facebook or Google, that will be there too. And for once, this is an interesting, democratic, people-oriented platform that for once it has serious financing behind it. There's a group of business people in French Canada, it so happens, they are putting substantial millions into this. And it's now in a serious preparatory phase. The key idea is people who join it will be aligning, will be asked to endorse some basic principles of the kind that we talk about. Not religion, but the basic ideas of we are one and together on this earth, and we have to make it go together. And this, once they are entered it, they are part of it. If they operate within this framework, they can put forward proposals, and these proposals will go to all whoever is on the platform, and there'll be a mechanism whereby people can say, I like it or not, or rate it, how good do you rate it? And so it will be a system, an electoral system, basically, a voting system, which will be available to anybody who joins this. The cost will practically nothing, it's only symbolic. The point is that you're joining a Facebook, which is not only there to put your own ideas forward and to enable your friends to see what you're doing, which is fine, so Facebook can continue, but there are very many negative elements there. But here is somewhat oriented toward a new ideas, a new paradigm. And the young people primarily will be expected to join. But if it's a success, and we'll see as of September how it works, then it could be thousands, 100,000, perhaps even millions coming together on it, and create a movement which will not be able to be ignored by the leaders, because people will be expressing by numbers how many people like this, how many people want this. It's just one initiative among others. Very small initiatives can also work, because as Margaret Mead says, never doubt the power of a small group of people to change the world. Yes, but we have to add, small group of people can change the world when the world is unstable. When it's very stable, when it's operated hierarchically, you can't change it so easily. But now, precisely, this hierarchy is not in place for the time being. If we don't allow it to come back again into a hierarchical system, oriented by national leaders, even by international global leaders, by business leaders, or by basically a very small group of people who are out for their own interests, if you don't let that happen again, then there is a chance that there is a deeper sense of community which is in us, which can be expressed, which we can create a community on this planet where before we had created local communities that have worked, yes, for thousands of years, we have lived in communities. Now it's time to create not only a national community, but an international, a global community. And the internet is there to help. The new science is there to provide credibility. So, and young people are there who are asking, do we need to do all those things that you are saying? Do we need just to hunt for the cheapest and the makes the most noise, gives you the most prestige or whatever? Do we need all that? Or do we have something better in us? Perhaps when we have got the shockwave, perhaps there is something better that's coming in its place. This is our chance. So we have a chance. I say, let's try for it. Let's seize it.
And we hope that, you know, it seems that the young generations are quite receptive to these things. So we have to form a coalition. And with this note, I would like to thank you and won't keep you much longer. And once again, it was Ervin Laszlo, was an acclaimed, world acclaimed concert pianist, and now one of the leaders of world thought, and recently published a message which we did elaborated in this discussion. Thank you, Ervin, so much, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Istvan. I look forward to continuing our global dialogue with you.